Good afternoon, everyone. This is Frédéric Toiteau talking from Paris this afternoon. I am very, very happy and glad to have everyone on board this afternoon for Tuesday session of this live show from HSMAI Europe. Today, we are going to have a very exciting topic to talk about. It's going to be around the jobs of revenue management, the key positions that have been taken a blow during the pandemic. We want to know how all this has evolved. Is it a new beginning for revenue management for the commercial functions, or is it a major shift that we have to address? And we are going to have 1 hour to be talking about this new perspective about how we could organize ourselves into our hotel companies for recruiting, developing, and keeping the best talents in the commercial functions. For doing that and for discussing this afternoon, I have 3 experts that I would like to introduce. Scott Dahl, Stan Josephi, and Daniela Boken. First of all, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself for the ones who don't know me. My name is Frédéric Toiteau. I am the chair of the Revenue Optimization Board for HSMAI Europe, and I've been working for Accor for the past 15 years in various revenue management and pricing positions. And this afternoon, I have around me 3 experts again that I'm going to be exploring with me that great topic. So maybe I can give them the floor now, and maybe we can start with Scott. Scott Dahl, who are you?
My name is Scott Dahl. Thank you, Frederic. It's great to be here. I am the Master's in Hospitality Strategy and Digital Transformation Program Director at La Roche Global Hospitality in Crans-Montana, Switzerland, and I teach revenue management and digital marketing.
Thank you, Scott. Welcome on board. Then we have Daniela. Hello, Daniela.
Hi, my name is Daniela. I'm originally from the Netherlands, but based in Germany. I work as Commercial Vice President and Executive Member of the Board for the Ruby Group. The Ruby Group is a design, hotel, and co-working space company, and we live our lean luxury philosophy, where we focus on lean structures and processes in order to make luxury affordable to everyone. Yesterday, we've only opened our 11th hotel in Cologne, and we have quite a large pipeline of hotels and workspaces to come. As a vice president, I'm responsible for different commercial departments, such as sales, marketing, revenue management, distribution, but also reservations and the workspace operations. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, we are too, Daniela. Thank you for this introduction. And then we have Stan. Hello, Stan.
Hi, Frederic. Thanks for inviting me and having me on this session. Stan Josephi. I'm a senior lecturer in revenue management at Breda University, which is a relatively small-scale university of applied sciences in the south of the Netherlands. I work for our hotel management department or academy. And yeah, for the last 23 years, I've been involved in revenue management in different capacities. Started off with Optims a long time ago, and for the last 15 years, I've been involved in education. So trying to prepare students for entering well prepared into the fascinating world of revenue management.
Great. So as I think you have understood now that we have gathered for you this afternoon a panel of great experts coming both from the academic world and from the operations. So we should be having very nice discussions with different point of views and angles. That's the objective for this afternoon. So before we start, I would like to give you a bit of a heads up with a few housekeeping rules. I think that's important that everyone around the table here understands that there is some antitrust guidelines and rules that we have to follow this afternoon. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to read that along and make sure that we all understand what it is about, what we can say and what we cannot say this afternoon. Okay, now, important as well to remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is a Tuesday afternoon, and for HSMAI Europe, it should become a rendezvous for you, right? Now it's been the case since April. We have had already lots of them, and it's going to keep on going for the coming Tuesdays. And next Tuesday, we have a very, very exciting topic ahead, again, with Sasha Dalig, the Regional Director of Central Europe at Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, and member of the HSMAI Europe Customer and Distribution Advisory Board, who is going to lead us through the very exciting topic called the distribution landscape and the power of artificial intelligence and how it's bringing all that to the market. So next week, distribution, AI, another great topic for you, with again and again the objective to give you great insights and tools and action levers for boosting the revenue in your properties. So that will be next Tuesday. Now, before I start asking the questions to our experts, I just want you to remember that you have the possibility to ask questions in the chat. So it's, for us, it's very important because that is going to make our discussions very interactive. So please ask any type of questions that you have to Scott, to Stan, to Daniela, or even myself, and it's going to be for us a nice way to complement our discussions or comments and our point of views. So please use that comment and chat function in the system. Thank you in advance. So let's start. Maybe I'm going to start with the ladies, right? And Daniela, right? So Daniela, we've understood that you are among us today, at least, the operational expert, the one who has the two feet in the commercial function, managing a team, dealing with sales and revenue and pricing and distribution and even marketing. So the first, like, maybe opening question I have for you would be, I would like to know how you feel that the pandemic has affected the pool of talents in hospitality in general, and of course, giving a focus on the commercial functions. What is for you that impact? How would you qualify it?
Currently, it's definitely very challenging to hire hospitality staff, I believe. As many that were in furlough or in short-term work, they've looked for different opportunities in other industries. And those that are passionate about the industry, about the hospitality industry, will come back in due time, but not right now because the industry is still too insecure, right? But also the pandemic has definitely caused a severe selection of qualified and experienced hospitality workers, because not everyone that has left the industry will come back. Some have seen different working conditions or different ideas of approaches in other industries as well, and will not return to the hospitality industry. So I think that's definitely going to be a challenge. Of course, some will return, and there's definitely still quite a few left over. If we're talking about commercial functions, it really depends which department we're talking about. Are we talking about digital marketing? There's many different industries that offer digital marketing jobs for great conditions as well. Are we talking about revenue management? There's more and more industries that are developing in revenue management, but still the hotel revenue management is still a very specific skill, I would say. And the people that we're looking for are also very specific. They need to have a very diverse skill set. They need to be analytical, strategic, but they need to have communication skills as well. And this package, that is something that not everyone just has on the shelf. And hiring those experts was already challenging before the pandemic, but has definitely become more challenging right now.
Is there not thank you, Daniela. Is there not like a kind of, I would like you to tell me a bit about the reputation, okay? Because now we come to a point, and you just said it, right? You just mentioned the fact that there is this, well, I realized that before the pandemic, I was working very, very hard in this service industry, maybe not getting the best salary. Yes, it was exciting. Yes, maybe I was traveling, but at the same time, I realized now that maybe I could do another job for the same pay, where I will not be so busy or so so much away from home and from my personal hobbies. So, in terms of reputation, do you think it is something that we are going to get back? We're going to get back on track, or it's more like a lost cause?
No, it's definitely not a lost cause, because I think we're still a great industry.
Shortest webinar ever.
Thanks.
Finally.
I was testing you here, Daniela. Thank you.
No. I think it's still a great industry, and there's so many people passionate about this industry, and that's not for nothing, right? It's the traveling, it's the way that we communicate with each other, the way that we interact with each other, the motivation behind it, and these are all the intangible things that are sometimes more important than just having a pay or a salary, right?
Yeah.
So no, I wouldn't say we're a lost cause at all. Talking about reputation during the pandemic has become more and more important, I think, and not only the reputation of the hospitality industry as such, but the reputation of every single company. How does a company interact with their employees? What kind of decisions do they make? Do they make short-term decisions? Do they make long-term decisions? How are they spending their money ways? Are they a stable company? Are they well for their employees or not? And I think these are the questions, and this is the reputation that different companies have to build up, or have already, that are very important, because many people have seen quite a lot of things now in the past 1.5 years, where people were fired or put on short-term leave, etc. Where of course everyone has become a bit cautious, and there I think it's very important to really build this brand image, which is something that Ruby is very strongly working on, to really make sure that the working culture is there, and it's not only about the compensation package.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Daniela. Great introduction. Stan, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think there is hope, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, of course, and we noticed that in education, and we noticed that students are a little bit afraid and concerned, because, of course, we educate for a relatively uncertain industry that, of course, has been really, really badly hit over the last year and a half. We see that students actually postpone the decision to start entering the industry. So once they're done, once they've got the degree, they continue to do a master somewhere else. And yeah, I mean, when I graduated nearly 25 years ago, I think within 1 year, 75% of graduates actually had left the traditional hospitality industry. It is not as bad anymore as it used to be. But we see it in the numbers of students. They're still up there. So we're still in the luxury position to have a selection procedure. So there's plenty of interest. But yeah, it's we need to do something. But I think we get to talk about it a little bit later as well.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Yeah. Scott, I see that you want to say something here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to speak up as the old guy of the group, right? I think it's a responsibility for the people that have been around for a really long time to point out the cyclical nature of our industry. I mean, let's face it, part of our industry is a real estate business, and it has a cycle associated with it. But what I can tell you is the old guy, this is now my 4th cycle, and the first one I'm sitting out on the sidelines as a teacher. I will tell you that if you match up my LinkedIn profile to the last 3 downturns, the period immediately following the downturn is when my career took off. It's when there's tailwinds, and this is an unprecedented downturn. And in my opinion, it's going to represent also unprecedented tailwinds as we grow the business back over the next couple of years. And what a cool spot to be, really, when the winds always hit your back. So I think part of it is really telling a little bit of the right story, getting rid of the 20-year-old perception of that horrible pay your dues kind of a statement that's kind of existed in the business. And that, I think there's some companies that still function that way. They have trouble attracting good people, but there's also some great employers that really create great quality of life for people and manage to attract great people. And I think we need to tell people about that a little bit more sometimes. I think the story doesn't necessarily get out. We keep it a secret a little bit. So
yeah, and while you're here, Scott, and giving us those great insights here, I would like to hear you about how the schools in general today. I mean, you're working for Les Roches, but you have that great overview of what hotel management schools are doing today. How do they need to really embrace that change? What do you think the school institutions and going to the scheme of works, right, and trying really to look at the practicalities? What should we change so that those students that we have here now on the school, some of them listening to us this afternoon, by the way, are going to be, being ready for what's out there?
I mean, I think it's some of that same transparency. If you look at school curriculums, they vary quite a bit. I'm very fortunate at La Roche. I'm responsible for a master's program that's 100% based on digital transformation and hospitality strategy. So it's got multiple revenue management classes in it. There's Max Starkov teaches digital marketing. You teach the leadership course, Frederic. I mean, it's very much geared towards those careers. I don't think we do a great job in general talking about that. And many of the schools, by comparison, would have revenue management as just a piece of the finance course, and there's really no more. There's that big of a difference. Those schools are still educating people for that very traditional career path that frightens people, right? It's no nights and weekends for the next 700 years. It's kind of a different path. And that's only one of the paths, really. If you look at a hotel and you take away the housekeeping department and the kitchen, 50% of the jobs are in commercial now. When I started in the business, it wasn't that way. There was a sales department and a whole bunch of us that ran the hotel.
True. Yeah.
Commercials become more complex, and so there's more careers there. And I'm not sure that we necessarily have fully aligned ourselves to prepare students for it, and also to promote them to them, to let them know that there is something other than getting in the path to be a general manager in 25 years and paying your dues and that sort of thing. If you like this part of the business, this part of the business has it too. Other industries have figured it out. They come steal those people from us. So they know that we're good at building them once they get in. But I'm not sure we necessarily do a great job just kind of talking about the breadth of opportunities. Not everyone fits being a front office manager, then a housekeeping manager, then a rooms division manager, and ultimately a general manager or a restaurant manager, and that kind of a path. Some people want to do different things, and it's available in hospitality, but I'm not sure we talk about it that much. And I'm not sure we necessarily educate people for anything for other than kind of the general manager career path. And then everyone else if you want to go to work for booking.com or booking.com wants to hire you, they know you need to be able to speak hotels because you have to be able to function in that environment. But whether you're going to be able to be successful as a market manager or not, it's kind of like a high rate of failure for them. And so but that's a very different role than running a restaurant. And yet we kind of, in some cases, we prepare everyone for those roles in the same way. So I think we can evolve a little, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Stan, in the Dutch system, I know that system is very good too. You have great schools there, hospitality schools. How do you adapt to this? Again, I'm really looking more at the commercial functions, right? With the big C, the ones that Daniela was talking about earlier. Do you think that we are going fast enough for meeting those needs from what's out there again that the new world is requiring?
Not to my liking. I mean, what Scott just mentioned, I fully agree with that. I mean, if I look at our program, revenue management takes a significant part or a significant role in there. But I'm fighting for priorities with economics, with operations, with management information systems. I mean, there is a bit of overlap, of course. And of course, I want to allocate much more time to what I think is the important stuff that really matters. And that's the expertise that we're talking about today. So what we have done is that what we try to do in the final year, where students actually opt for a specialization role already. I mean, there we focus on what we call demand management, and we bring that together with asset management. We call it the business of hotels. So we talk about management contracts, hotel management agreements, these kind of things, and we relate that to the commercial functions of the hotel. Revenue management is not part of finance with us, but it actually sits together with marketing in one course. I think that's where we came from, and we now see that moving back towards perhaps maybe one integrated department again.
I think, Stan, when it's called revenue management, it's got a marketing section is when we'll have finally gotten there, but it's a little bit different.
That's a topic for a different conversation.
Yeah, but the proof is with Daniela today. I mean, she's overheading all these together, right? So it shows that, and I know that in the major brands, companies like Accor, Marriott, and so on, we have the same now. So it's really having this overall visibility and expertise across the scope that we have to prepare students in the schools. Daniela, do you think that I don't want you to maybe do a stereotype, but like maybe to give us your point of view on, do you feel like the master students that are coming or the bachelor students that are coming to your company, in your experience, as interns or as young professionals, are equipped today enough or provided what they need from the schools?
That really depends from what kind of school they're coming. I honestly always prefer someone with practical experience and a degree, so to have both. Someone with international experience. So many hotel schools also have internships, like international internships, where students learn something, which is an important factor, I think. But definitely for topics such as revenue management, there needs to be some baggage there, and there can't be just a part of marketing course, which is also revenue, or part of finance course, which is also a bit of revenue management. There needs to be a bit more than that. So I typically like really the mixed CVs, a good education, but also the practical experience. Often in the bigger chains where they've really learned how things work, how things work structurally, internationally, and then perhaps come to a bit of smaller companies such as Ruby.
And for example, Daniela, if again, students are listening to us today. I know that there are lots of students who registered for that discussion this afternoon, that live session. If you had to give them tips or advice, what will boost their chances to get one of those fancy jobs in one of your commercial division, right? Whether it is in revenue management, in strategic marketing, in pricing, or in e-commerce, what are the 2 or 3 aspects that they have really to focus on today, especially today, looking at the world today?
I think that still really depends what kind of role it is. Is it revenue management or is it sales? I think in sales, it's very important to for instance, have the perfect personality for it, to have the be able to talk easily, to sell, to present, etc. For revenue management, you're looking for very different qualities, and for marketing as well. A big part of marketing at the moment is social media, for instance, and there's a lot of young people that are much better than in social media than those who have done marketing for years and years, because it's a new thing and it keeps evolving. So what kind of skills? I wouldn't say there's one commercial job as a whole, because there's definitely still very specific skill sets that you're looking at the different departments. The reason that we're combining the commercial departments is more that it's become very important that they all talk to each other and that we utilize synergies, right?
But you're more looking, Daniela, you're more looking today for behavior, or you're more looking for pure expertise on, for example, a system or whatever tactic, or ability that they have as a specialist? Is the behavior important for you today?
The behavior is the most important for me, definitely.
Okay.
The behavior, and with that said, the potential to grow into a strong role. I think that's much more important than someone who's had 5 years experience but is saying, I've always done it this way. Because,
for example, we have a, yeah, sorry, Daniela. Sorry, keep on going.
No, what the last years have taught us is that the world is so unpredictable and you never know what's happening. And in that sense, you need to be very quickly to react. And in that sense, many roles have also evolved in everything is becoming quicker and faster, and you just need to be agile in that sense. And there, I think potential is a lot more important than having the entire experience already.
So, for example, we have a question from the audience here, from, I guess, a student, or maybe a teacher, but I think it's a student. He says, if you have a BA in hotel management, how can you start a career in revenue management if you have no prior internships in this field? Most being available only to students and not graduates. That on top of that will be, this question is burning today because we know that lots of our students couldn't do any internships in the past year and a half because of the COVID-19. So it's adding up. That question is even more important and intense that it will be in a regular year. How do you address that, Daniela? In your company, for instance, is it important for you, or is it like a dead end? Is it something that you can bypass, or would you recruit someone like that?
To be honest, in companies currently, resources also have become scarce. And in that sense, we need to select very carefully, and we need to make sure that we can do more with less. And that's kind of how many companies have come to look to try and automate things more, to make sure that the processes are streamlined, and that one experienced revenue manager can do a lot more than someone who has no experience, of course. To give a tip to this person asking the question, I would say it's probably the best to see if there's a way to find an internship. Even though it wasn't possible in the last year, get this internship going now. And from that moment, it's very easy to roll into the next job.
Yeah.
I would say, if I can just add to that, I think it's important to have realistic expectations career-wise. You don't go become a jet pilot because you wanted to be, right? You have to work your way into it. And our industry is a very specific industry that really is very unique, right? Not many industries does the customer use the product in the factory. So it's got all these weird things that are going on. So I tell my students all the time, you're not going to be in charge until you have a hotel smell. And they look at me funny. And like, what does that mean? I'm like, well, it means you've been in the environment, right? When someone says something, you understand what they're saying, because you can be a fantastic digital marketer. But if you don't know the hotel business really well and you create a really cool bed and breakfast package and it's hugely successful, but you don't let the restaurant know, you've created a disaster, not a success, right? So you kind of have to understand all those parts, how they work together. So the advice I would give that person is go get a job in the environment. Go get yourself into that place. Go start to get comfortable with it. Start to be able to tell your own hotel stories and get some credibility, because what you're asking for is to be in charge of the jet. And you got to kind of know your way around the plane first before anyone's going to put you in charge of the jet, because every person's job in that building is, quite frankly, very tied to the revenue manager's job. If they don't deliver enough top line, every margin becomes more difficult to manage and all that stuff. So it involves trust. You're going to have to be able to establish trust, and simply being super smart ain't going to get that done. You're going to have to be able to be credible. You're going to have to prove that you fit in the environment. So I would say go get some relevant experience. I mean, it won't hurt you. It will help you. That hotel smell, I think, and thank you, Daniela, for nodding. That was very validating for me.
Yeah,
I mean, that's super important. You can't get one without it.
I think especially in revenue management, the experience is very, very important, because you can only learn so much in studies. And I've actually had a full revenue management course at Hotel School The Hague back in the days. And I thought I was great at revenue management. And then starting my first job, I remember my first interview for the first job, and I thought revenue management is all about displacement analysis. And on my first day, I learned something about straight line availability, where I've never ever thought of before. And that are just some topics, or just some things I think that you only learn in experience. What happens if you sometimes don't watch, and you really lose a lot of revenue because you had your rates too high, or your restrictions too strong, or whatever. Yeah. So it doesn't need per se to be an internship, but it needs to be a starter's position. You can't start as a manager right from studies.
Yeah, and I will add that it's so important to finish up on what this gentleman or lady, by the way, I don't know, was asking. You need to focus as well on your network. Make sure that you keep working close to the people along whom you can learn, you can grow. It's so important to cultivate your network, especially in those days when, again, the activity is pretty slow, when, as Daniela said, you don't have like so many job openings. So it's very, very important to be to use the social media, to be present on LinkedIn, to keep talking with the people that you think could bring something to you, whether they're teachers, experts, professionals, peers, former colleagues, etc. That's something that you are, and it doesn't cost a lot, right? It's kind of free, but you have to go for that. That's going to be one way of getting that job one day that will be, you will be called directly while you didn't maybe apply for it. So go for network. Stan, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think the current times actually, and I've said this before in meetings with the Revenue Management Advisory Board of the HSMAI. I think this is a great opportunities for companies in the industry to take one step back and well, not step into education, but set up some sort of a partnership. We have an example whereby what we call the Hilton class. So Hilton is involved at an earlier stage in our education, and they dedicate time to some extracurricular activities to students to prepare them. Great opportunity for them, because they can do the cherry picking and they can handpick the students with the potential. Students do the placement at Hilton, they do the bachelor thesis at Hilton, and I think this is a great opportunity to do the same thing with a revenue management company. And the benefit for students is that A, they're introduced to a network, what we're just talking about, and B, they get to work on real life cases and practical examples. And what I always try to do to students as well, I try to take them into the industry and bring them as close as I possibly can to the real life, because I fully agree with you, Daniela, we don't learn it from the books, right? And yes, this placement analysis is nice and we can do it in theory, but actually having to do one in real life or compare it to other decisions, I mean, that is what actually matters. So I think this is a great opportunity for industry to be more involved in education at an earlier stage.
I think that's a great point, Stan. Sorry, Scott.
No.
Because I remember during my studies, I did quite a few projects with different companies, really with a key question, analyzing a new product or setting out a new strategy. And I think because of the few resources hotels have available at the moment, there's many hotels that are willing to cooperate with universities in projects such as that, where students really get the real life experience to analyze or research a question and present it to the hotel management. And I think that's a very valuable experience as well.
Yeah, there's something to be said. I think you both make a great case. Case studies only take you to a certain point. You're missing a piece of data. You come up to my desk, you ask me for the data, and I make it up for you so that you can keep doing the case. But I think, Daniela, 75% of the analysis you do, there's garbage data in there somewhere that you have to somehow figure out how to deal with before you can even get to the decision-making point. It's almost impossible to teach that academically. How do you intentionally make bad data? It's a difficult process. So you're right. Having that contact on an ongoing basis and that reality helps people. I mean, the difference between me as a revenue manager when I was younger and me as a revenue manager much older was everything I had learned at owner's expense. Now, I didn't lose my job. I was 51% or more correct. But let's face it, I made a lot of mistakes to learn that. So that experience is super valuable because when I hire someone with experience, all of that education and all of those corresponding errors that cost little bits of money here and there, that person has hopefully carried with them and learned from them. And so it definitely, there is a very big benefit to being able to kind of see a bigger picture. So I think you got to go out and accumulate that experience little by little, as we've been talking about.
Yeah, definitely.
We have a
question from Terence in the chat who says, are companies actively seeking furlough revenue managers, and what are those RMs saying in terms of working practices, salaries, etc.? Are you Daniela? I don't know. Maybe you are you using that pool of talents for your upcoming recruitments or positions?
To be honest, I personally am not. And that doesn't mean that no company isn't. There were at the start, there were a lot of furloughed revenue managers, of course, but most skilled revenue managers by now have either gone back to work or found another job. And for me, it would be kind of a sign that someone who hasn't been working for 1.5 years is perhaps not really the right fit for the job.
Okay, pretty clear. Right.
Such an honest and amazingly great answer. I can tell you, after September 11th, I had to furlough 3/4 of my organization. There was a certain part of and I'm sure Danielle is going to validate this. There were a couple people that as soon as I could have some resources, I wanted them back because I was having to do things I hadn't had to do myself in 10 years. And then it got a little bit better, but then there was a magic line. That job, I'm not calling that person back. That job gets posted because that person, I'd rather take my chances than have what I had in that person. So I think every hotel company right now in that shakeup has had a little bit of an opportunity to reinvent themselves, and shame on the ones that are not. If your house burns down, that's a horrible tragedy. As long as no one gets hurt, eventually you're holding an insurance check. Would you build exactly the same house or would you learn from it? For me, one more closet, one less bedroom. I mean, there's some things that I know based on having lived in my house. And so it's kind of these downturns give these companies an opportunity to sort of shake the Etch-a-Sketch a little and clear things off and rebuild themselves. And it's interesting to hear what you're saying in terms of how you're going about rebuilding it, even in terms of just different organizational structure and potentially a little bit more specialization at the very entry-level positions instead of everyone is a digital marketer / inventory manager. Some people are digital marketing people. Some people are managing revenue now. So it's kind of an interesting thing. It was neat to hear you say that, but that's a pretty common, right now it's shaken up. Why not build it back better? It's one of the few things that can be a benefit of the last couple of years.
It's a good opportunity. Good opportunity, good moment for that. Stan, maybe just to bounce off on that, can you give us a heads up a bit on how has the job of revenue manager evolved according to you in the very last month or like couple of years? What is on the menu today that was not on the menu yesterday? What's very important according to you today, so that everyone who is listening to us can understand that?
No pressure, thanks.
You have 4 hours.
Okay. What's the next question? World peace? I think I have to refer back to what Daniela said earlier. I mean, if you look at the skill set and what we're looking for in a revenue manager, it's like we're searching for a Superman or Superwoman. And if I look at my own research that I completed a couple of years ago, and if you look at the definition of revenue management, that has basically evolved, right? And for a long time, and I feel that revenue management basically, I mean, a lot of tasks have been added from different commercial roles. Distribution has been added, and hey, you guys, you work with systems, so you must know about that. So a lot of things have been thrown over the fence, and I think we're getting to the stage that it's now time to clear up that list of tasks and responsibilities and actually go back to the essence of revenue management. But at the same time, if you then look at the definition of revenue management, that has become much more strategic, that now involves or includes multiple revenue streams. So From the other side, we're actually adding tasks and responsibilities to it. And I don't feel that the process of revenue management has actually changed. I mean, I feel it's still, analysis, forecasting, optimization, we evaluate, and then we move on. It's just that within that process, we probably take different decisions. And my preferred definition still includes art and science, but we now no longer look at top line revenue, we look at profitability. And the balance between art and science has actually shifted in favor of the science role, because we see an increased role for automation, artificial intelligence systems. So the role of the revenue manager, to me, has become much more strategic, because if all goes well, you should have freed up an awful lot of time that you can use more strategically, and have a longer or further horizon instead of trying to deal with your pricing decisions for today and for tomorrow.
Yeah, makes sense. And Daniela, by the way, I have the feeling that now revenue managers, if we could still call them like that, have a very, very important role at convincing, recommending versus the owner of the hotel, like giving sharp recommendations, being able to go into details about, marketing, but also analytics, data intelligence. With that objective is to support the GM of the hotel to give the proper recommendations to the owner. Is it something that you've seen increasing in the past years, that need to have revenue managers to step up and give those strategic decisions?
That is definitely something that happens in the last years. I don't know if it is a very recent trend though, because there's a lot more franchise companies starting up, smaller companies or smaller brands, and most of these companies have their headquarters and have their owner relations all bundled from the headquarters and not from one GM to a headquarter. My recent experience is that in the last few years, there's become more clusters or corporate offices where the GM has been taken away this responsibility to really clear owner relationships. But for instance, a development team would do that, or the strategic management team of the entire company. But that, of course, definitely depends on the structure and the hotel, and also on the owner as well. Those owners that are very, very keen or very challenging, they need always to have finance and revenue management both in the room to get in detail and to explain in detail why and what's happening exactly. Yeah.
I think also Stan made a really interesting comment about the balance shifting. And I actually think it's because we're finding the equilibrium. For my degree, it's about 50% marketing and creativity and about 50% analytics. And I kind of think that's really the role, that we're really looking for those people, these unicorn people that have both skill sets. And so that, I mean, like inside for a while, we've always used the term, right? Geeks that speak make bank. And I think that's really kind of a true statement to a certain extent, that it's great if you're that mad scientist, analyst person, but if you can't convince anyone that that's the right thing to do, you're just functioning in a vacuum. It's useless. In fact, you frustrate everyone because they don't understand you. So what's happened, I think, is we've started to put more of a focus on not just the amazing decision-making power and explaining away the anti-personal skills, but we're really kind of looking for both of those, because we realize if the message doesn't get out, it's a wonderful decision that happened in the dark, So I think that's really cool. That's the balance, the opportunity. If we go back to the career thing, in my opinion, if you think you're super analytical and you want to be a revenue manager because you don't like working at the front desk, you're not going to stop talking to people in this job. If you think it's going to be super creative because now it's more digital, guess what? You're never going to escape the math in this job. So you've got to kind of find yourself that sort of middle ground, and make sure you're the person that fits in it. But I think for those that really kind of like the idea that it's both. I like analytics, but the uncertainty of the future as opposed to finance, which is all pretty certain. If you can find that place and you're the right person, it's a great opportunity. But it's become more, I think we learned that a better revenue manager needs to be able to talk not just sit over, as Stan mentioned, okay, you have a laptop, now you manage this too. Oh yeah, I'm the only person in the hotel with a laptop, so now I have to do that job. It's we can't make decisions that way anymore.
Well,
Exactly. That's what I mentioned at the start, and that's the profile of a revenue manager. It's so diverse and complex. It needs to have analytical skills, but also communicative skills, not only externally, but also internally in different departments. Only with sales already is very important.
Well, and I guess it's the result of this push that we have, made now for a few years about trying to ramp up revenue management and make that subject one of the equal of sales or marketing, right, in the hotels and the organizations. So now we have directors of revenue in some brands that have quite senior levels, right, or very senior levels. So they have to be able to speak, they have to be able to communicate, while these old style revenue manager that was hiding behind his or her revenue management system 10 years ago, and that was the only thing that we needed from him or her, that was to just compute the system and give to the sales manager his or her recommendations. That's probably gone, right? Now what we need are those people who are really able to make the data talk, right? And to make sense of all that data, trends, analytics that is coming out of the machines. Because the machines are going to do it now, right? Automation is on the way. We know that. So it's not so much a question of knowing how to do a displacement cost, to come back to what Stan was saying, right? But more to understand what do I do with that, right? What's the decision we take rationally for the success of the company, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that actually requires a much more strategic mindset. So you need to be able to think bigger beyond the borders of your traditional revenue management job. You have interdependency and interrelationship with other silos or departments in the organization. So a bit like a chess player, you need to be able to think several steps ahead. And I think analysis still is important, but indeed the synthesis part, being able to bring things together, that really matters. And then, of course, having to sell the story to the organization internally and to your owners as well.
Yeah. Hence, as well, the role of schools here to promote those communication skills and to make sure that the students are always able in their business cases, exercises, and activities to stand up and to sell their recommendations to the audience, right? Because that's what is going to be expected from them back in the operations.
To acknowledge skills and frankly teach them like data-driven storytelling, for example, right?
Yeah.
Where, I don't need somebody to read me a star report. There's a Google application that'll read me the star report. Don't worry about it. Don't need that. What I need is someone that can give me 3 bullet points that describe the whole star report without a single number in them. That's the one I need. And guess what? If you can do it in the elevator on my way to lunch, you're worth even more money to me, right? That's the real value when you start to look at what the impact you can have on an organization, and not just being a numbers geek. 10 years ago or 20 years ago, they used to run the revenue manager for the owners meeting. Oh, look, we have a scientist. Now the person's largely running the meeting. And I think that's evolved, right? And it's a different skill set to do it. And by the way, speaks great for us. They're going to pay us a lot more if we're not just sitting around doing math all the time. So I think it gives the discipline some prominence as well, but it's definitely shifted.
Definitely. Daniela, we have a question from the audience, from Roland. Roland is asking, GMs in the hotels, I guess, are under pressure to deliver results. They don't have the time to get a revenue manager up and running. We can imagine that, right? Very well. How do we change this pressure on them to bring in trainees, giving them time to learn and develop? How do we do that? Nice point, Roland. Thank you.
Yeah, if there's no revenue manager at the moment, then the easiest and the quickest way is probably through revenue consulting, which is something that has been developing over the years as well, and that we see in the industry becoming more attractive because it's more flexible than a permanent contract of an employee. You can hire consulting for half a year or a year, and then see what happens. In that sense, you could give more time. However, consultancy is always different than having your own staff, of course, because there's certain things they do and certain things they don't do. And with trainees, especially in revenue management, this question was about revenue management, right?
Yes.
It is very important to learn from a coach and not to just learn all by yourself. So hiring a trainee without having an experienced revenue manager who can coach this trainee doesn't make sense to me at all.
Now I have another. Thank you, Daniela. I have an idea. I want to push that to Scott and Stan here, because my two friends here work in beautiful schools, and maybe we can find an idea here to answer Roland's question. What about having special partnerships with those hotel chains through schools, right? Where we have a kind of a promise where we're going to ramp up, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 revenue managers per year, right? Our best talents here, by giving them from the school already, the exposure or the capacity to understand the system that is being used by the brand, the culture, the processes, so that when those people, those students come as interns, they are ready to deliver, right? And they don't need to have that those 2 or 3 months of integration in the company, because we know that GMs don't have the time for that. What do you think, Scott? Isn't it a great idea?
I think it's a genius idea, and I'm going to be very selfish in saying that we actually have a partnership with Driftwood Hospitality, a U.S. company, multi-branded franchise company, and each one of our students spends an entire semester connected to the hotel. They participate in the weekly strategy meeting via MS Teams, of course, but they participate in the weekly strategy meeting. They have a login for the OTA Insights subscription from the hotel so they can follow along. And then they have like this little bit where they have kind of a deliverable each week. They get asked a question. They got to run off and do a little bit of research. They come back the following week. And in exchange for being a fly on the wall for the whole process, they contribute 5 minutes of it. When you talk to my students, that is the highlight of their education. And it has to do with the fact that it's real. It's not just us telling them stories. Like, they're really engaged in stuff. The meetings get rescheduled because someone called in sick. Like, all those things that really happen that you don't really experience in an academic world. So I think it's genius. I think companies should find that. My students are absolutely eager to crunch data to the end of the earth for free. They would be glad to do that sort of thing. It's just a question of enabling those partnerships. But I will tell you, we have some in the master's program at La Roche. They're the highlight. It's kind of what makes everything else real, really, quite frankly. So it makes it all kind of make sense. Up till then, it's just, fairy tales, and then you put it in context.
And that's a good. I think it's a good thing for HSMAI. I think, Scott, we have to
definitely
we have to try through HSMAI maybe to promote this, because what Roland is explaining here, I'm sure, Daniela, you live it every day. I mean, GMs are so busy now, so busy with so many stuff. Their clients, of course, the staff, but now on top of that, all those systems and processes that they have to prepare for the head office and for the managers and the owners, that they don't have the time to train and to take care of those young professionals. So they should get some help from outside, and the schools are very good lead, right?
The other thing I would say is look within your own organization. You probably got somebody standing at the front desk that wants that kind of a job. There's 3 or 4 hours a day at the front desk that they might be able to do something. Connect them with that revenue manager or some other revenue manager as a mentor. And because I will tell you, when I was a revenue manager, some of the things I did, I could have trained a monkey to do. I would have loved to have trained someone else, and they probably would have loved to do it. Would have been a great exchange, and they could have learned. And so I would say any hourly employee that wants to get ahead, if that's not happening for you, go to the revenue manager and say, hey, listen, I have a couple slower hours at night. If you're a night auditor, you've got 5 hours at night, right? Go and just, say, hey, listen, there's something I can maybe, get involved in. And who knows, you might get put in charge of responding to TripAdvisor comments, right? And now all of a sudden you're involved in user-generated content, and you're involved in the positioning of the hotel. Like, it's even just little stuff that I think people can get. If you take some initiative, you can get exposed to. I would say to that person that wanted to figure out how to get into it, I would say take it upon yourself some too, right? Put yourself in the situation and try to learn some.
Got it. Right. Excellent. Daniela, Bastian in the chat is and Stan here too. Bastian is asking, I would agree with Daniela. Daniela, apparently you're very successful on the chat here. People love your comments. But he says, okay, great, but what about independent hotels? Because we are talking here about the big chains. Okay, they can attract and be very appealing to these young professionals from Les Roches and from Breda. But what about independent hotels? How can they do that? You know, even Bastien says, do they need to pay a premium to get revenue knowledge in? What's the recipe for them? We can't hear you, Daniela, for some reason. Daniela, we can't hear you. Yeah.
Sorry, I was still on mute. I think Bastien is right there. Independent hotels do have a disadvantage, a very clear disadvantage, and that was pre-pandemic already the case, where you clearly saw that independent hotels were paying premium prices, which was then again very difficult for bigger chains, where revenue managers were moving to independent hotels because they would suddenly earn twice as much, right? Where there was suddenly a very, very big discrepancy between salaries for just the same job or for even less work at an independent hotel. And that is a challenge for independent hotels, but I don't think you should be an independent hotel to try and coach and train your entire team, because you don't have the time and the resources for that, and that's probably not the skill that you're good at either. So I don't think that should be the focus. So they need to invest a bit more in that sense, and then can have less, for instance, franchise fees in another way.
Yeah, and external help now is working very well too. We know there's a lot of external companies who can bring revenue management on demand. That's quite easy with different level of coverage. So that's something as well that independent hotels can look
Absolutely. They then take advantage of that same economy of scale, right? You can now run 5 hotels, because a smart person can run 4 or 5 relatively simple hotels, and one relatively simple hotel can't afford a person that's capable of doing it. So there is that economy of scale that can be done, but from a syndication perspective, if you want to think of it that way. That's
exactly.
But then still talking about paying a premium, if you're outsourcing your revenue management, you're definitely paying a premium there, of course.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a kind of premium. Yeah, exactly. Okay, guys, ladies, we have 2 minutes left, so it's going to be time to conclude. I know we could stay a second hour here, but we cannot. So quickly, last word. Scott, Stan, would you like to tell me how can we ensure that revenue management positions will remain attractive in the 5-10 years to come? How can we do that?
Spending more time on it in education, in close cooperation with industry partners, not just chains, but also with RMS providers and companies such as OTA Insight, these type of companies. And on top of that, I think there is a great role for the HSMAI Europe or International to play in this field, and to continue to help developing revenue management as an expertise for the industry.
Beautiful conclusion. I love it. You know, just concluding on HSMAI. Thank you, Stan. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Daniela. I think it was great insights. I mean, I love the conversation. I hope it was the same for the audience listening to us this afternoon. Sorry if we couldn't answer all your questions, but I think we did most of it. It was a pleasure to have you. Don't forget about next Tuesday, again, 2 p.m. CET, Central European Time. We have another great live session about distribution. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Daniela. Thank you, Stan. You have a beautiful afternoon, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, Stan. Bye, Daniela. Bye, Frederic.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.